This is Heliox, where evidence meets empathy. Independent, moderated, timely, deep, gentle, clinical, global, and community conversations about things that matter. Breathe easy. We go deep and lightly surface the big ideas.
We tend to think of nature as a retreat. It's the place you go to get away from the noise.
Exactly, the quiet place.
Right. You want peace. You want to hear maybe one bird chirping in the distance while you just decompress. It's like the spa day version of the world.
It is. It's the meditation app version of nature. We project this idea of total tranquility onto it because, well, it doesn't sound like a construction site.
Exactly. But looking at this stack of research we have for today, and we're pulling from work out of Quilodeo National Park in India, some really groundbreaking studies on crows in Spain, and data from the Earth Species Project. That view is it's completely wrong.
It really is.
If you try to look at the data, a forest isn't a sanctuary at all. It's more like a newsroom. Or maybe the floor of a stock exchange during a market crash.
A stock exchange is a surprisingly good analogy. It's chaotic, it's incredibly high stakes, and it is overwhelmingly noisy if you actually have the right hardware to decode what's being screamed across the room.
And every sound has a value.
A price, a value, an intended recipient, absolutely.
And that is really the core of this deep dive. We're looking at bioacoustics. And I don't just mean like bird watching with your ears.
No.
This is the hard science of decoding the invenal ink of the biosphere. We're talking about the difference between a bird just singing and a bird reporting a major security breach.
Right.
Or the whisper networks of crows that we've completely missed for centuries, and the AI that is finally starting to translate this stuff for us.
It's a huge shift from observation to, I guess, surveillance. We've been watching birds for a long, long time. Now we're finally wiretapping them.
Wiretapping them. I love that.
And what we're finding is that we have been walking through this incredibly crowded room full of arguments and political debates, romantic proposals, urgent security alerts, and we didn't speak the language.
So let's start there with our own hardware.
No.
Why are we so bad at this? Why do we walk through a forest and just hear background noise? Is it just, human arrogance?
I don't think it's arrogance. I think it's bandwidth. Pure and simple. The human brain is just designed to filter.
Okay.
Think about walking down a busy city street. You've got cars honking. You have snippets of conversations, sirens, footsteps. If you processed every single one of those acoustic signals with equal weight, you'd burn out in 10 minutes. You wouldn't be able to function.
So we just compress the audio. We hear city noise.
Exactly. We group it. And we do the exact same thing in nature. We hear bird. We don't hear, a territorial dispute involving 3 males over a scarcity of resources.
Right.
We just classify it as ambient nature sound, and our brain moves on. Bioacoustics is the science of removing that filter and analyzing the entire soundscape as a set of distinct, important data points.
And the sources we're looking at today really frame this as a massive shift in perspective. It's moving from bird watching, which is so visual, you have to physically see the bird, to bird listening, which is, it's omnidirectional.
Think about that city analogy again. Let's say you wanted to understand a foreign culture. If you just sat in a cafe watching people, you'd learn a lot about how they dress, maybe who holds hands.
Sure, the surface level stuff.
The surface level. But if you closed your eyes and just listened to the tone of their voices, the rhythm, the volume, the urgency, even if you didn't understand a single word of the language, you would understand the emotional dynamics of that society so much better.
You'd know who was fighting.
Who was terrified.
Right.
Precisely. You tap into the social network. And that is what bioacoustics lets us do. It lets us tap into the social network of the forest, which, it turns out, is way more dramatic than we ever thought.
Okay, so let's start with the basics of this language.
Yeah.
One of the sources we have from Rhodes Scholar lays out what we could call the grammar of birdsong. Because I think for most of us, if a bird opens its beak and makes a noise, we just call it a song.
We do.
But biologically, that's a massive error, isn't it?
Oh, it's a huge one. In the world of ornithology, using song and call interchangeably is like confusing a prepared political speech with a sudden shout of pain. There is a very hard line between them.
Okay, so let's break that down. What is a song in this context? And I don't just mean it sounds pretty. What are the biological criteria?
Think of a song as an aria in an opera, or maybe a sonnet. Songs are typically long, they're complex, they're rhythmic, and they're repetitive. But the most important distinction is that songs are usually learned.
Learned. You mean not genetic, not instinct.
It's a mix, of course, but for songbirds, the Yaseens, they actually have to learn their local dialect from a tutor.
A tutor.
Usually their father or maybe a dominant male in the territory. If you were to isolate a songbird from birth, it might sing a sort of broken, garbage version of its species song. It has the instrument, but it doesn't know the music.
Wow. That implies culture. If it's learned, that means it can drift over time. You could have accents.
You absolutely have accents. A robin in London sounds distinctly different from a robin in Manchester. But the second factor, and this is so crucial for the evolutionary side of it, is cost. Singing is incredibly metabolically expensive.
You're just burning calories.
You are burning a tremendous amount of energy, but not just that. You are also standing in a high exposed place, broadcasting your exact location to every single predator in the area.
You're holding up a big neon sign that says, "I am here, come eat me."
That's it, exactly.
So why on earth would you do that? It seems like a terrible survival strategy.
It's something called the handicap principle. The message the bird is sending to a potential mate, usually a female, is, look at me. I am so physically fit, I'm so good at finding food, and I have so much excess energy that I can afford to stand here and scream at the top of my lungs while simultaneously dodging hawks.
It's a flex.
It is the ultimate flex. If he wasn't fit, if he was sick or hungry, he couldn't sustain the area. So the song serves two primary purposes. Mating, showing off that genetic fitness and territory. It's a sonic fence. This is my spot. Stay out.
Okay, so that's the song. The aria. The expensive, learned, risky performance. Then what is a call?
The call is the text message, or maybe a shout. Calls are short, they're simple, and they're utilitarian. And crucially, calls are often innate.
Ah, so they're hardwired.
They're hardwired. You don't need to go to school to learn a panic scream. It's built into the brainstem.
So these are the getting things done sounds.
Exactly. Food is over here. I'm flying to the left. Hey, where are you? And most importantly, danger.
Give me an example of how much information can actually be packed into a call, though. Because danger seems pretty broad. Is it just a general, hey, everyone, be careful?
No, it's so much more specific than that. A classic example is the black-capped chickadee. You know, their famous call, chickadee-dee-dee.
Sure, of course.
Well, studies have shown that the number of Ds at the end of that call correlates directly to the size and threat level of the predator.
You're kidding.
Not at all. A large, slow-moving hawk that isn't much of an immediate threat might only get 2 Ds, chickadee-dee. But a small, fast, highly agile pygmy owl, which is a massive danger to a chickadee, that might get 10 or 12 Ds. Chickadee-dee-dee-dee.
So they aren't just shouting danger, they're shouting code red versus code yellow.
They are communicating the degree of danger and also the type of predator. And here's the amazing part. This is understood across species. Other birds listen to the chickadee's warnings. Squirrels listen to the chickadees. It's a public broadcast system for the entire forest.
The forest has its own dedicated emergency broadcast network. That's fascinating. Now, before we move on to the tech, the Rhodes Scholar material brought up something I hadn't really considered. We're focusing so much on sound, but communication for birds is, well, it's a multimedia experience. They aren't just radio broadcasters, they're also actors.
Right. You can't fully interpret the sound without seeing the body language. It provides all the necessary context. If I shout, hey, at you across the street, my body language is what tells you if I'm happy to see you or if I'm warning you about an oncoming bus.
Okay, so what are we looking for? If I'm just looking at a bird in my backyard, how do I know if it's feeling aggressive or if it's scared?
Posture is the big one. And it's remarkably similar to humans, actually. If a bird is standing up straight, chest puffed out, that is a clear signal of aggression or confidence. It's the classic, come at me, bro, stance.
The tough guy pose.
It's all about making yourself look larger. Now, contrast that with a bird that is crouched low to the ground, maybe looking a bit slouched with its head tucked in. That signals submission or fear. It's trying to occupy less space to be smaller.
And what about fluffing up their feathers? I see birds do that all the time. I always just assumed they were cold.
And very often they are. Fluffing up traps a layer of air and insulates them. It's like putting on a down jacket. But context is everything. If it's a warm day and a bird puffs up its feathers while facing another bird, that's not temperature control. That's piloerection. It's an intimidation tactic.
Trying to increase its silhouette.
Exactly. Or, in a romantic context, it could be trying to look impressive. Look how big and healthy my plumage is.
Right. And then you have the subtler cues, the tail flick.
And the tail flick, yes. Flycatchers and warblers do this constantly. A quick, sharp flick of the tail can be a warning signal to others in the flock, a sign of agitation, or even just a way to startle and flesh out insects from the foliage.
There was one term that came up in the source material that I found really interesting, allopreening. Now, we know preening is just grooming, but what's the allo part?
Allopreening is social grooming. It's when one bird grooms another. Now, functionally, this helps them get parasites off places a bird can't reach itself, like the back of its own head.
For sure.
But socially, it is massive. It's social currency.
It's currency.
It signifies a deep bond, trust, and social collection. It actually releases endorphins in the birds. It's the avian equivalent of holding hands or giving a hug. In complex bird societies, who you groom and who grooms you defines the entire hierarchy and the network of alliances.
So if you see two birds sitting on a branch and one is gently nibbling the feathers of the other, you're not just watching cleaning.
No, you are witnessing an intimate social contract being signed.
Okay, so we have the grammar songs versus calls, we have the physical cues. But as humans, our hearing is actually pretty limited. We miss a lot of the nuance. One of the most fascinating parts of these sources is how researchers are now using technology to see sounds that we might otherwise completely miss.
This is where the science gets really, really cool. Because our ears are simply not fast enough. We have what's called poor temporal resolution compared to birds.
What does that mean?
It means a bird might sing a note that sounds like a single tweet to us, but if you take that recording and slow it way, way down, it might actually be 5 distinct notes rising and falling in rapid succession, all happening in a fraction of a second.
So we're just hearing a blur.
We're hearing a smear of sound. To the bird, it's a full sentence. To us, it's a single syllable.
So how do we fix that? How do we see the detail? The researchers in that Keeladeo National Park studied Bonayadov and Party describe using something called a spectrogram.
A spectrogram is essentially a graph of sound. Imagine taking an audio recording and turning it into a picture. On the bottom axis, the x-axis, you have time. On the vertical y-axis, you have frequency or pitch.
Okay.
And then the colors or the darkness of the lines on the graph represent the loudness or amplitude.
So it's like sheet music, but for raw audio data.
That's a great way to think of it. And this allows us as humans to see the incredibly complex patterns our ears just miss. We can measure the exact duration of a note, the repetition rate, the frequency range. We can see the harmonic structure. But more importantly, the researchers argue that you can start to see emotion.
Emotion? That sounds a little bit like projection. How can you see emotion on a graph?
Well, think about human speech for a second. When you're angry, your voice gets louder, the pitch might become more erratic, the rhythm gets choppy and sharp.
Right.
When you're trying to soothe a baby, the pitch is consistent and smooth, the rhythm is gentle. Birds follow very similar acoustic rules.
So a sharp, erratic, jagged pattern on the spectrogram might look like fear or aggression.
Exactly. The researchers in the study described learning to read these spectrograms like they were scripts written in the air. They felt they could identify joy, fear, dominance, and even longing just by looking at the visual shape of the sound waves.
A smooth, rhythmic pattern looks like confidence. A broken, choppy one looks like distress. That is incredible. It's like a lie detector test for the entire forest.
In a way, yes. But sometimes, just recording sound from a distance isn't enough, especially if you want to know who is talking and, crucially, what they are doing at that exact moment.
And this brings us to that amazing study on crows in northern Spain. They had this very clever, almost low-tech solution to a super high-tech problem.
I love this part of the research.
Me too, because it highlights a massive blind spot in how we've been studying these animals. We've been watching them from 100 feet away with binoculars.
And just assuming that if we can't hear it from that distance, it's not happening.
Right. So to fix this, they needed to wiretap the birds, as you said.
Yeah.
But you can't just glue an iPhone to a crow's back.
Yeah.
So walk me through the engineering challenge here. You need a microphone, a battery, you need an accelerometer to track movement.
And a magnetometer to know which direction they're facing. It's basically the same suite of sensors you have in your fitness tracker. They wanted to know, when the bird makes this specific sound, is it flying? Is it eating? Is it sitting perfectly still?
But the big problem is, how do you put a tiny backpack on a wild crow and then get it back? You can't exactly ask them to return it. And if you have to recapture the bird, that's incredibly traumatic and difficult.
And you definitely don't want to trap the bird permanently or harm it with a heavy harness that it's stuck with for life. So the researchers came up with this brilliant solution. They used a piece of a balloon,
A balloon?
A simple piece of balloon material. They used it to attach the device to the bird's back feathers. And the genius of this is that the rubber in the balloon degrades when it's exposed to sunlight, to UV light, and the elements.
It's a ticking clock.
It's a self-destruct mechanism. They calculated the degradation rate. After about 3 or 4 weeks, the rubber becomes brittle, it snaps, and the whole device just falls off the bird.
That is brilliant. It's a
Yeah.
biodegradable time-release lock.
It is. The bird isn't stuck with the tech forever. And the researchers just have to track the device's signal, go out and find it after it drops, usually near the roosting site. And then they have weeks of invaluable data where they can perfectly sync the sound the bird made with the exact movement it was making.
So they can see on the data log, okay, at 10:04 a.m., the bird made this specific squawk, and at that exact moment, the accelerometer shows it was moving his head in a feeding motion.
That's it. And this combination, the audio plus the movement data, is what led to some absolutely massive revelations about the secret social lives of crows.
Let's dive right into that case study because this really challenged everything I thought I knew about crows. When I think of a crow, I think of, well, usually a spooky movie scene in a graveyard.
Dark and raucous.
Yeah, they're loud, they're ominous, and they seem kind of solitary or maybe in like a loosely affiliated gang.
The stereotype is definitely loner with an attitude. And generally, carrion crows are known to be fairly solitary or live in breeding pairs. But this specific study in northern Spain found a population of crows that was behaving in a completely different way.
How so? What were they doing?
They were living in stable, multi-generational family groups. This wasn't just a mom and dad and the babies for a few months until they fledge. The offspring were staying with their parents for up to 4 years.
4 years? That's like a human kid living in the basement until they're 30.
Laughs. It's a significant portion of a crow's life. And they weren't just freeloading, they were helping. The older siblings were actively helping to raise the new chicks. They were cooperating in defending the territory. It was a full-on, multi-generational household.
And the source mentioned that this isn't genetic, right? This is a cultural thing specific to this area.
That is the absolute key. This is learned behavior. These specific Spanish crows have developed a culture of cooperation, likely because the good territories are all saturated, there's nowhere else for the young to go, so they stay home and help out the family business.
And because they're living in these complex social groups, their communication needs are much, much higher than a solitary bird would have.
Infinitely higher.
And this is where the biologgers revealed the big aha moment. Because if you ask anyone what a crow sounds like, they're going to go, see, see, loud, annoying.
Right, the classic harsh caw. But when they looked at the data from the microphones on the birds' backs, they found that loud caw, the long-distance call, is actually quite rare.
Wait, really?
Yes, the researchers were shocked. They found that most of the time, the overwhelming majority of the time, the crows are making soft calls.
Soft calls, you mean like whispering?
Basically. These are incredibly quiet, complex sounds that are only audible if you are right next to the bird. Humans almost never hear them because we are never that close without scaring them off. But the biologgers picked them all up. It turns out these crows are talking to each other all the time.
A whisper network.
It's the absolute glue of their society. Because they are living in such close proximity, they don't need to shout all the time. Shouting just attracts predators and rivals. So they are constantly murmuring to each other, reassuring, coordinating, bonding. It completely changes the image of this bird from a loud, aggressive scavenger to a creature that is intimately chatting with its family all day long.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder what else we're missing just because we aren't close enough to hear it.
It's a classic problem of observation. We only studied the sounds that we, the observers, could hear from the ground. We were completely missing the private conversations.
But this created a new problem for the researchers, didn't it? Suddenly they had thousands upon thousands of hours of recordings of these soft whispers. No human can listen to all that and categorize it.
Right. It's the big data problem hitting ornithology. So they brought in the Earth Species Project. This is an organization that uses artificial intelligence to analyze animal communication.
So they fed all the crow whispers into an AI. And I want to be clear here. The AI isn't translating this into English. It's not Google Translate for crows.
No, absolutely not. We're not there yet. What the AI is doing is a process called dimensionality reduction. It visualizes all the vocalizations as a massive cloud of data points in high-dimensional space.
Okay, let's just stick with the cloud analogy.
Imagine taking every single sound a crow makes and turning it into a tiny dot in a huge 3D cloud. Sounds that are mathematically similar in frequency, duration, timbre, all the acoustic features. They cluster together in the cloud.
So all the alarm calls float over to the left side of the cloud, and all the begging calls from chicks float over to the right.
It sorts them into piles based on their acoustic similarity.
Correct. But what was so incredible was that the AI found clusters that didn't fit our existing human categories. It found these new islands of sound that we hadn't labeled because we'd never really heard them properly before.
The sunset sound.
The sunset sound, exactly. The researchers found this specific vocalization that the AI had flagged as unique and consistent. When they listened to it, they couldn't map it to a specific behavior like eating or fighting. It seemed purely emotive. One researcher described it as sounding like a sunset.
A sunset. That's incredibly poetic, but what does that even mean scientifically?
We don't know exactly yet. Maybe it was warm and fading, maybe a little melancholic. But the point is, it was a sound so unexpected from a crow that they had to resort to using poetic language to describe it. It suggests there is a depth and a nuance to their vocabulary that we are only just beginning to scratch the surface of.
We're listening for cause, and they're out there giving us sunsets. That is just wild. It really hints that we might be on the verge of actually communicating in a very basic way with some of these species. If the AI can map the full vocal repertoire, we might eventually be able to identify complex patterns we never saw before. It's not about talking to them yet. It's about finally understanding their dictionary.
That feels like a sci-fi movie waiting to happen.
Yeah.
But let's pivot from the crows in Spain back to that dense forest in India. The Quilladeo National Park study gives us a totally different but equally dramatic look at bird communication, specifically the high-stakes world of romance and rivalry.
This study is so evocative. I mean, you can just picture it. You have these two researchers, Boniadov and Party, crouching under the forest canopy. And Quilladeo is this dense, incredibly vibrant wetlands forest. It's loud, it's humid. They describe their goal as trying to become invisible ink.
And they were specifically looking at how the soundscape changes based on who is talking to whom. So male-to-male interactions versus male-to-female.
Correct. And the difference is absolutely stark. It's the difference between a boxing match and a ballroom dance.
All right, let's start with the guys. When two males are interacting, maybe over a territorial boundary, what does that sound like on the spectrogram?
They called it a sonic barricade.
A sonic barricade. I like that.
The calls are loud, they're consistent, rhythmic, and incredibly repetitive. It is a pure performance of endurance. They are essentially arm wrestling with their voices.
So the message is, I can yell louder and longer than you can, so this spot is mine. Stay off my lawn.
Yes. They fight with sound long before they ever fight with beaks and claws. Physical fighting is just too expensive. You can get seriously hurt, you can get an infection, you could die. Sonic fighting is much safer. If you can intimidate your rival just by being louder and more rhythmic, you win without ever scratching a feather.
Okay, so that's the aggression. A monotonous, intimidating wall of sound. But then a female flies into the territory. How does the tune change?
It transforms completely. The researchers noted that the males immediately start jazzing it up.
Jazzing it up. I love that quote.
The vocalizations become much more complex. They introduce new variations, little trills, rapid pitch shifts. It's no longer a monotonous wall of sound, it's an audition. The male is trying to show off his creativity and his vocal skill.
And what's the female doing during all this? Is she just a passive audience member?
No, and this is the best part of the study. If she likes what she hears from him, she joins in. This is what's called the duet, or song pairing.
They sing a duet, like in a musical.
They sing in perfect synchrony, and this is incredibly difficult to do. They have to match each other's rhythm and pitch perfectly. The act of singing together is the mating ritual.
So it's a compatibility test.
It's the ultimate compatibility test. It's not just, I find you attractive. It's, can we coordinate? Can our brains actually work in sync? If they can hold that complex rhythm together, it's a powerful signal that they'll be good partners for raising chicks, which requires massive, constant coordination.
And if she doesn't join in, or if their duet is out of sync,
It chases her away.
ouch. Tough crowd.
It's brutal. But if they do sync up, that act of countersigning creates the pair bond. The researchers described watching these interactions on the spectrograms and literally seeing the shift from the sharp, jagged lines of male-male aggression to the beautiful, interwoven, harmonious lines of the male-female duet.
And this goes right back to that idea you mentioned of decoding emotion. The researchers weren't just logging data points. They felt like they were watching a soap opera unfold.
They mentioned being able to identify joy, longing and fear just from the shapes on the screen. It just
Oh.
reinforces this idea that these aren't biological robots running on instinct. They are emotional beings with incredibly complex social lives, and sound is the medium through which they navigate all of it.
So we've covered the grammar, the tech, the family secrets of crows, the love songs of the forest. But there was a more serious, urgent side to this deep dive. Why does bioacoustics matter beyond just being cool natural history?
It matters because the soundscape is a health monitor for the entire planet. We are just starting to realize that a healthy, vibrant ecosystem has a very specific and predictable acoustic signature.
How so?
Both Source 1 and Source 3 touch on this. If you walk into a forest and it's quiet, that is a terrifying sign. A healthy ecosystem is noisy. It has layers and layers of sound insects buzzing at one frequency, frogs and amphibians at another, birds in the middle, mammals at another. This is called the acoustic niche hypothesis.
Everybody has their own frequency band, so they're not talking over each other.
Exactly. The insects take the high frequencies, the frogs take the low frequencies, the birds take the middle. If one of those bands is silent, it means an entire class of species is missing. You can measure the biodiversity of a forest just by analyzing the spectrum of sound it produces.
So a quiet forest is a dying forest.
It's something ecologists call empty forest syndrome. The trees are still standing, the grass looks green, but the animals are gone. The soundscape has collapsed. And we are seeing the direct impact of human activity on this soundscape. Noise pollution is a huge, huge issue.
Yeah, the Rhodes Scholars source mentioned factories and urban centers creating all this low-frequency noise.
Well, think about it. If your primary way of finding a mate is by singing a complex, beautiful song, but there's a jackhammer or a highway next door drowning you out, no one can hear you. You are effectively sterile because you simply cannot communicate.
You're singing in a vacuum.
So birds are forced to adapt. And this brings us to something called the Lombard effect.
A Lombard effect?
It's what happens when you go to a loud bar or a concert. You unconsciously raise the pitch and volume of your voice to be heard over the background noise. Birds do the exact same thing. We are seeing bird species like great tits and robins in urban areas singing at a significantly higher pitch than their cousins out in the countryside.
To cut through all the low rumbling traffic noise.
Yes. The low-frequency noise from cars and machinery masks their lower notes, so they shift their whole song up into a higher register. But there's a trade-off. High-frequency songs don't travel as far, and some studies suggest that females actually find these high-pitched, screechy songs less attractive.
So the city birds are stressed out, they're screaming to be heard, and they're striking out with the ladies because their voice is too high.
Effectively, yes.
Yeah.
We are forcing them to compromise their reproductive success just to exist in our space.
And I assume climate change fits in here as well.
Oh, absolutely. Rising temperatures are causing mass migrations. Birds are moving to new places they shouldn't be, or they're arriving at their breeding grounds too early before their food sources have hatched. This completely disrupts the food chain of sound. If a key predator moves out of an area, the prey might overpopulate, and the whole soundscape shifts. Bioacoustics allows us to hear these changes long before we can visually see a population start to collapse.
It's an early warning system.
It's one of the best we have. But, it's not all doom and gloom. We're also seeing incredible, incredible adaptation.
Urban birds.
Right. Birds are nesting in streetlights. They're exploiting our trash bins. The Rhodes Scholar source points out that some birds are figuring out how to survive and even thrive in our concrete jungles. They are resilient. But we need to give them a chance. We need to preserve what's called the acoustic horizon, the distance at which they can still hear and be heard.
So wrapping this all up, what does this mean for us, for the listener who's maybe commuting to work right now or washing the dishes? How does all this change how they should interact with the world around them?
I think it offers a really profound shift in your worldview. We tend to think of ourselves as the only people on the planet, the only ones with culture and language and family drama.
But the crows have intense family drama.
The crows have family drama. The songbirds have incredibly complicated courtships. They have local dialects. They have secrets. And when you realize that, the birds you hear in the background of your life aren't just decoration anymore. They are fellow citizens of a very complex and very noisy society.
And we can actually participate in this, right? We don't need a biologger on a piece of a balloon.
No, not at all. You just need your ears. The sources all encourage what they call citizen science.
So what's the practical tip here?
Just go outside. It doesn't have to be the Everglades or Costa Rica, though. Those are definitely on the bucket list. Go to your backyard or a local park.
And just listen.
Really listen. Try to distinguish a call from a song. Is it short and sharp or long and melodic? Look at the bird's posture. Is that bird puffed up and aggressive? Is it flicking its tail nervously? Try to guess what the conversation is about.
And the best time to do this is early in the morning, right?
The dawn chorus, right at sunrise, that is the busiest time for the conversation. It's when the invisible ink is freshest on the page.
I love that image. The invisible ink of the air.
And as you're listening, just remember the crows.
The whisper network.
If we went for centuries thinking crows were just loud, solitary scavengers, simply because we never put a microphone close enough to hear them whispering to their children, what else are we missing?
That's the question I want to leave you with today. What other conversations are happening right under our noses or above our heads that we just haven't built the right microphone for yet? Are we on the verge of finally understanding what the rest of the planet is saying?
I think we might just be.
Thanks for listening to this deep dive. Next time you're out for a walk, maybe take the headphones off. You might hear something surprising.
See you next time.
Heliox is produced by Michelle Brucker and Scott Bleakley. It features reviews of emerging research and ideas from leading thinkers, curated under their creative direction with AI assistance for voice, imagery, and composition. Systemic voices and illustrative images of people are representative tools, not depictions of specific individuals. Thanks for listening today. 4 recurring narratives underlie every episode: boundary dissolution, adaptive complexity, embodied knowledge, and quantum-like uncertainty. These aren't just philosophical musings, but frameworks for understanding our modern world. We hope you continue exploring our other episodes, responding to the content, and checking out our related articles at helioxpodcast.substack.com.